So we record. We're recording in progress this meeting. So this has been a long time in the making. Depending who we talk to, this is 7, 28 years in the making. Maybe a little bit more specifically, the 2013 that the city of Prescott study that took place said the next step of that study was the design concept report. So because we're government, we like to take things very cautiously and carefully. So here we are almost 10 years later, ready to take the next step. I say that a little jokingly because, again, there's a very big part of this conversation today that's about public engagement and the concerns of the community. You know, and the courier has asked me several times, well, you know, how much feedback have you received and how much opposition to this? And I always respond to it, it's a dangerous question, you know, because it's a group of people that are clearly concerned and very, they're just concerned that their backyard or the view that they see is going to change. So by all means, we've done the best we can from a project standpoint to put about 25% of this project towards public relations, communication, outreach. I know many of you have already had discussions with residents, elected officials, representatives. I appreciate the meetings leading up to this kickoff day. We've met several times, simply met with City of Prescott, Town of Prescott Valley, the county individually, different decision makers, different meetings. We met as a region, and long story short, here we are today to kick off this project that will run about 18 months. We're very happy to have Kickoff as our consultant. If you're not familiar with them, they've done a number of projects in this region for many of your organizations, in particular though for Sundog. As of recently, our 25-year regional transportation plan. They are working on revising 69 roads between Prescott and Prescott Valley, giving the 89 on there for us. So again, the lead consultants, in particular, Matt and Kate is in the room with us today, just have a wealth of knowledge for this region. They really are an organization that I turn to on a regular basis. They continue to help guide and shape us. A little bit more recent, specifically how we got here was the strategic retreat that Sundog had last summer with the Sundog staff, with our PAC members, with the executive board, to really look at our 5 years, our next 5 years, our transportation improvement program for the city. You know, these are our major planning projects that we have listed that include the Sundog connector, include evaluation of the 69 corridor, the Great Western, and various other projects. The discussion that we had all afternoon at the Prescott Resort last summer was we need all these projects clearly. These are all priorities, but which of these priorities could be most deliverable? At that time, we did not know what federal infrastructure bill was going to happen. Now we're sitting here, and at least on our end, we're getting pretty overwhelmed. The good parts of our job, there's a lot of money out there, how to capture it, how to go after it. But I will say it is like there's a lot of grants and a lot of resources. The conversation we had prior to that was what projects can we focus in on to put us in the best position for money that may be coming our way. Kate Bondy and AECOM helped me with that retreat. When I sat down with them, that was the question was, you know, Kate, what specifically, clearly we've done plenty of planning studies, a variety of projects in the past, but what is it we can do to put, what projects can we put out there in the near future that would set us up for some grant opportunities? So this was it. Sundog Connector was a major part of our discussion, the design concept report. And if we can do this, we put ourselves in the best possible position to a year and a half from now to look at the design of this and to look at federal funding for this particular corridor. So over the last year, it's been a bumpy road, you know, for a number of reasons, mostly concern of the residents, the public, but also the elected officials at times had a number of views as to what this road will use. I think the last pitch to kind of get it over the finish line was, this was not, Simcoe is not coming up with a brand new idea. Again, this is 28 years in the making. It started with a Prescott general plan, Prescott East plan, and has over the last 27 years basically been supported by county comprehensive plans, Prescott Valley general plans, Prescott general plans, and a variety of transportation studies. So again, it's been a part of our conversation for a while now. The 3.5-mile corridor, the intersection on the Prescott Valley was constructed 20 years ago, 22 years ago. The intersection in Prescott was constructed about 12 years ago. So we've had the bookends of this particular road in our community anywhere from 10 to 20 years. So that's the major part of the discussion. So that's kind of bringing us up to where we are today. You all are a member of this technical committee. You will be with us for the next 18 months. We're looking for your specific guidance to continue to shape this into the best possible project. Obviously, we'll be doing this regular meetings, but the communication we strongly encourage to be open throughout the whole process. Don't just wait for the meetings. If you see the iceberg coming, let us know before we hit it. So thank you for giving them your time. If there's somebody that you believe should be a part of this, that we collected, talk to Lindsay and myself. We're happy to include them. My apologies to the city of Prescott for conflicting with the council days and the executive session and all these things we have. We're mindful that we need to be out here by 2:30 to get back to the council meeting by 3. With that said,
as Ray mentioned, my name is Rose. I will be the project manager for the Simcoe staff and on my goal with this project really is transparency. That's going to be the key that makes it successful and design concept. I don't want to hear at the end of it. You never told us we don't get any input from us, so I really do hope that if someone else is doing this, no matter how on-site block it is, welcome with suggestions. And 28 years in the making, to think about that, I'm only been in the making of a day for getting longer. And so I think that this is the key to it. There's a lot to do with this, and I think it deserves a fair shake to see what we can do. So I'm sorry, but I think it was and so really quickly before I move on and introduce Matt Bronte and start this meeting, I did notice that Mr. Ashley Crouch was just joined us. I appreciate you coming in. We've got a lot going on. So if you would mind just very briefly.
Sure, my name is Ashley Crouch. I'm strength for the city of Prescott.
Good for being here. So I will avoid two face with all of my 500 names. So with that being said, I will go ahead and introduce Matt Bronte from Kickoff.
All right, thank you. As we said there, I'm Matt Bronte, project manager for Simcoe here on the project. We're excited to get things underway. We do have a presentation that we'd like to kind of run through in order to kick things off here. I would say, I guess overall, first we have a sign sheet in the front. So anybody has to sign them, please do that on the way out. You have an agenda in your hand, and you're, I think we're ready to go. So from here, I'm going to head up to the podium, and we'll go ahead and get started. Sure. We're just going to share the screen here in a second, and then hopefully everybody online can see it. All right. Can everybody on Zoom, can you see the screen here?
Yep, I can see the screen.
Yes. All right, sounds good. Okay, so like I said, we do have the sign-in sheet in the front. If everybody in the room could please sign that on the way out here. We have documented everybody on the phone there. So I guess as we run through the presentation here, again, we're just kicking it off. This is our formal kickoff to the project. We want to go over, some of the study team, the roles. We've done some of that stuff.
we'll look at the study area, we'll look at the goals and the needs. We'll talk about the different work plan and tasks that we have in mind and set up for the project in order for us to, get from where we are today to that 18 months down the line where we've come up with, what the overall outcome of this study is. So we'll be going through that today, the overall plan for the project, go over what some of the next steps are, go over what some of the plan and some of the needs for, this group and everybody involved, some of those expectations and needs are. As we go through, if we have any questions as we go through the slide, please feel free to jump in. Anybody on the phone, please feel to jump in with any questions or comments as we go through as well. Next slide to go. There we go. So study team and roles, I'm not going to really spend too much time on this. We've done our introductions. This kind of shows just the overall kind of our org chart of how we have things set here. Simpo, project manager at the top. It just goes over all the, myself as the project manager on the consultant side, all the different individuals for all the different disciplines within here, AECOM, and then some of our consultant, Kimley Horn, and also Aerotech is on here as well. But through our introductions and whatnot, those are just the different makeup of our team. As we go through some of the discipline specific stuff, we'll introduce some of those members as well. Technical advisory committee. So again, the stack of what we're calling it here, everybody in this room, these are individuals that we are wanting to be part of that stack. So this different representation from each of the simple members, each of the other key agencies that have, or stakeholders that have been identified to date as well. Again, I'm not going to go down this list. Everyone in this room, though, some of the things that we're going to be looking for, some of the expectations from the stack, we're going to be wanting that input as we develop through the process of what these alternatives, what this process, what this overall study needs to look like. So, we're going to be looking at different things like monthly meetings, looking at different, anything that we're looking for input on, whether a formal submittal or a formal request for information, attendance at those meetings, just the input as a stack as we develop things through. So I'm not going to. And again, as Kate said there, we will make this PowerPoint available at the after the meeting when we send out the minutes. So everybody will have a good chance to review the information. If there's other individuals we want to add, feel free to let us know. So just briefly looking at the study area. So as many of you know here, this is just kind of a figure, a map showing the general study area or project area that we'll be looking at here. So kind of in the blue in the top there, showing that kind of proposed or potential proposed east-west corridor, running from Prescott Lakes Parkway over to on the west side, and then on the east side, the connection there with SR 69. Again, as Vinny was talking, as we went through it there. So on the west side, there's the existing constructed roundabout on Prescott Lakes Parkway. Then on the east side, that eastern terminus being at Sundog Branch Road. We are running east-west, north of some of the proposed developments within there. But again, this is the study area that we'll be looking at. It's been studied before through the course of this project. We'll be looking at, we'll be looking at what's been done before. We'll be, coming up with potential alternatives to fit within this region as well. So again, this is just the general study area. Some of the study goals, we've just kind of bulleted out some of the things that we're hoping to accomplish as we go through the study here. So first, establishing that purpose and need with the public input. So we want to early on within this project, develop, purpose and need for this project and really show that is this a needed and valuable project for the region. So that'll be, with public input involved with it. So garnering that early in the project, determining that benefit for this project will be, one of the initial early things that we're going to want to do. Kind of hitting on the second bullet there, establish benefit and impacts of the corridor implementation. We're going to, through all the coordination, identify configuration for the potential regionally significant route. We'll be looking at alternatives as we develop through the process, typical sections alignment. What does the typical section need to look like? Where can we fit this, proposed roadway corridor alignment within, based on some of the constraints, based on some of the needs, based on all the input and consensus with the stack, stakeholders, everyone involved, and have this public involvement process. So, a big portion of this study, we wanted to bring kind of a robust public involvement process into this study. We want the public involved. We want their input involved. Again, at the end of the study, we don't want to get into a situation where, individuals, stakeholders, the public doesn't feel like they've had, we don't want it to be a surprise. We want everybody to feel like they've had an opportunity to put their input and know what's going on. And so at the end of the project, we can make those, the last bullet there, an informed decision-making process. We want to make the best, give the information so we can make the most informed and best decision for the region. So through the course of that study, those are some of the goals that we're looking to establish. Study needs, so just a couple of the needs, potential needs for the project. We're just kind of showing a figure of it here. So some of the needs that are known today. So congestion relief. So SR 69. Obviously, a new east-west corridor could help with some of the traffic needs or projected traffic needs within the future there. Emergency access evacuation. So, again, providing additional access points or evacuation type points. So if something's going on, how can everybody get out of the area? What are alternate routes that people can access to get to where they need to be or where they need to go? Assessing some project unknowns. So again, this area has been studied before. This study that we're doing now is going to kind of take it to a little bit further of a detailed level. We'll talk about some of the things that we'll do to be able to look at some of those project unknowns. But as we develop things, as we start developing alternatives and looking at some of the additional areas, we'll take a closer look at some of the topography within there. We'll get a little bit additional more survey. We'll be able to identify vertical constraints a little bit more. So taking it from where it's been, getting into a little bit more detail so we can again make a more informed decision on what the project may become. And then preparing for those funding opportunities. So developing alternatives, seeing what those costs would be today or could be in the future, identifying potential areas where, first determining what that cost would be, and then looking at where potentially could we look at some funding opportunities for those costs. So study work plans. So getting into a little bit of what the process would be, or what the planned work plan would be in order to get from where we are today. So from the start to where we want to be at the end there. So this is just kind of a chart that kind of rolls out what our game plan or what our work plan would be as we move through the project there. So we're sitting here, at the very beginning of the project. So we're kicking out the project. We'll do things like site visits. We'll hold stakeholder workshops. We're kind of in the data collection mode right here. So just getting started. We'll come up with a plan for that public involvement plan. These are all early action item type stuff that we want to get in front of everybody early, so that it will then live with through the life of the project, and we'll have that kind of roadmap of where we want to get to. I don't want to jump too deep into it. We have other tasks we'll talk about. We've broken it down into different tasks as we work it through. We'll look at existing and future conditions analysis, establish purpose and need, and overall we'll kind of get into that alternatives development and then that alternatives evaluation phase. So we'll look at a bunch of conceptual alternatives. We'll use this group, this stack group and other stakeholders involved to neck down those alternatives and come up with ones that, you know, we like or we think are viable that we want to study even further, and then get into the little bit more of the detailed on it. We'll have agency, we'll look to garner agency concurrence through all of it there. We have some triangles here for different public outreach opportunities. So public outreach being taking the project out to a public meeting, so we can, you know, we'll initially tell the or want to present to the public and let them know what's going on, what's being studied, what the process is. We'll then take it further down once we get further in the project. You know, we'll show them alternatives that have been developed. We'll show them alternatives that have been evaluated. We'll garner their we'll want their comment, their input on what we've taken it to, on what they like, what they don't like. We want to have that public involvement process involved with it in there. Once we get through that alternatives stage, we'll get agency concurrence and stack concurrence on what we want to do. If we've come up with a proposed alternative that would be our preferred alternative, if that's, you know, the build alternative with it, then we'll further develop within we'll further develop within our DCR and environmental overview process. We'll take any preferred alternative to a 15% plan level. And then, you know, then from there, finalize up the DCR and the environmental overview. And then I know decisions can be made on, you know, where to take the project from there. Yep.
Just to acknowledge that first public outreach we're tentatively looking at this summer. So July, August. So again, I know there's quite a bit of buzz from the public as to when they're going to have the opportunity to publicly provide their input. So between now and then, again, we will want to send out a number of reminders that we're going to have a website up. They'll be able to review materials. They'll be able to offer comments, questions prior to them. Lindsay will be doing a monthly newsletter again to the greater public to let them know what activities are taking place. We'll be having regular public meetings where we're providing updates that again they can hear those activities. But I do know of most interest is that first public outreach meeting. Depending how things go, again, we're looking at the summertime, July, August, that we would go ahead and post that first major public. Wanted to let everyone know.
What was the point of pressure down? We have our town music go down. It's really the best. I can get those when it's up. We can get some out for that. Yeah, one point is more happy to use our own notes. That's yourself well. We made a big investment in cameras, so that's pretty bad. But
Thanks, Norm. So that will pick you up on that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So project meetings, we've touched on it a little bit there. The plan for this study, monthly stack meetings. So we'll do those both virtually and in person. So, you know, we'll have the opportunity kind of like what we're doing here today. We'll monthly, we could have the opportunity to get everybody within a room and kind of discuss all the project needs with it. Well, I'm sure we'll have Zoom opportunities as well as we go throughout the meetings to be coordinating and moving things forward. Okay, were you gonna say something?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably reasonable.
With that, we're going to jump into some of the more discipline specific aspects of the study here. We'll kind of hit on all those different disciplines as we go through, where we kind of initially sit today, and then we can talk about some of the things that we'll potentially need or want to do as we start developing things throughout the study here. So roadway, so some of the key elements that we'll be tackling or looking at as we start developing the study. So again, that first and most important thing we want to look at there is establishing that purpose and need. So we'll be looking to collect existing and future data for traffic. So that'll be one of the biggest things to hopefully to develop and look at for what is the need for this new corridor. We'll develop design criteria. So as we're looking at the new corridor, in collaboration with the stack, we'll start looking at what type of roadway it is. We'll look at what's done before, but we'll look at the different criteria for the different agencies. We'll develop, what it really needs to look like, what the typical section needs to look like, what are all the different design constraints and criteria that it needs to follow for the new roadway or the new corridor that will go through the area there, or needs to be evaluated through the area. Within the roadway, again, we'll come up with conceptual alternatives. So as we develop the project, once we get to the alternatives development stage, we're going to develop what we're calling conceptual alternatives. So it'll be up to around 5 conceptual alternatives that will, kind of analyze to a point where we can be focusing on the horizontal and vertical alignment, but we'll analyze it to a point where we can get it in front of everybody and look at these different conceptuals and kind of look to garner with the group saying, these are our alternatives to date. What do you like about them? What don't you like about them? What are the the pluses, minus, constraints, benefits of each one of these conceptual alternatives? And we'll take that, and then we'll get that consensus with the group, and then we'll narrow it down to what we're going to call our build alternatives. So probably around 2 build alternatives along with the no build alternative. So kind of a point with it here is there'll always be the no build alternative that's going to be evaluated as well. So 2 build alternatives that have gotten necked down, that have received kind of the most consensus with the group, plus a no build. Typical sections, we'll look at recommended intersection locations. We'll look at multimodal considerations. We'll look at phased implementation. So all that detailed analysis to a point where we can make informed decisions on, what those alternatives need to look like, see which ones garner the most support, but as we evaluate it through there. So then next bullet, alternatives evaluation criteria. So how will we look at those initial alternatives? How will we neck it down to the couple we really want to look at? And then also from there, once we have our 2 build alternatives, how will we determine which is actually, plus the no build, which is actually our preferred alternative that we want to move forward with? So we'll do that by developing evaluation criteria. So again, you'll hear it a lot, working with the group on coming up with criteria that we feel is important for each of these alternatives to then be able to, whatever it is assigned to an alternative, look at it, score it, see where they fit within each other or how they rank within each other. So that's some of the evaluation. Through that, we'll hopefully be able to identify a recommended alternative from it. So, little screen here too. From that, a recommended alternative, that recommendation will convert to a preferred alternative once public input has been received. So we'll take it to a point where we have that recommended alternative. The final step before it's actually the preferred alternative, we would want to take it to the public and then, feel comfortable and feel like we have the support or feel like that's still the best decision before we move things forward.
Generally speaking, that's a fun. And the other type of is that sexual call. And that's preliminary.
I'm going to test this book if they're saying they're having issues from the back. Jessica, can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. I think it's mainly the maybe the far side of the room. Can't hear much of the discussion or the questions from over there. Is it possible to move the microphone or laptop like to the middle of the square, or is that not feasible?
And I was just standing
That's right.
Jessica, can you hear me? This is Kate.
I can hear you now, yeah, but previously no.
Let's try to talk that way. We'll do better.
Thanks, appreciate it.
We'll try, Jessica. We'll try. Did you have anything else there, Kate?
No, I guess.
It's taking place in different jurisdictions. There is a agreement that I believe the municipalities are considering for the purchase of the state trust throughout this whole area, including Blacksburg Hill, Festival, and the city of Prescott are currently in negotiations with agreements being considered for the purchase of all the state trust in that area for preservation of open space. That's happening at this week. Which is a major conversation piece to this. It's not the early objections to this conversation. It's to become private and resident. Yes, this is a good conversation that it may be preserved for open space.
Yes, that we want from that. You know, there's a map you can actually that item that I do is on. So
passes tomorrow.
In case anybody missed anything, we were just discussing who in the room provides some critical GIS and other information to Matt and Kate. So I think that was interesting from probably answer that question in case you missed it.
Yeah, and we'll pull together formal requests to send each of the agencies there, anything that we'd like to hopefully garner from you, but we'll reach out individually to each of the agencies there.
Well, when I was just, maybe not talk a lot about careful stuff when with the road. I have a discussion, but I like everyone to do the sections and intersections. I have a discussion of the design standard. Talk about that, I can see the things. We try to find ourselves in expression, I can see they go from 55 to 65. Obviously, yeah, that's really fun.
That's just a path forward. Wow, would you put this in something for that design criteria?
And just one comment on that is that was definitely some of the early objections to this project was what is the character of this road, what's it going to look like. There was an incredible initial fear of again, a very high rate of speed, loud road. Be happy with that. I would like to think in the scope itself, we don't have an answer to the question yet. We want that from you all. But we tried to add to the scope again a real multimodal road. This is bringing relief to 69. It's not to Route 69. What would a true multimodal road, like the bicycle, pedestrian, possibly rail, get access. So again, for what it's worth, some encouragement to try and slow it down a bit. But we haven't answered it. So we have different elements in the scope to help shape that. So we should want to bring that.
Yeah, I'd like to flesh it out early.
And to Norm's also his point of the typical section, we had a reminder, this is in a short 3.5 miles, it's covering the white jurisdiction of the city of Prescott, City Trust, town of Prescott Valley, and then also the county, even though at this point, the study area does not go to the Yavapai County jurisdiction, Diamond Valley comes up to the study area. So when we look at this typical section, it is a big conversation piece, and each of those jurisdictions have their own typical sections and approaches. So keep that in mind.
Relative.
There was just so you all know at home, there's just a great conversation here about the two. Felt like I missed something. That's good information.
Disagree with that
I don't know what the time means, but it means
All right. Any more discussion on roadway items? Okay. With With that, we'll move on. So survey for the project. So we talked about that getting a little bit more detailed than some of the previous studies done before. And we've also talked about some data request type elements. So we will request some of the available GIS 2-foot contour type data. We'll get those requests out there. We'll use that for initial analysis of what we're calling those conceptual alternatives. So we'll use that to come up with our conceptual type elements or our conceptual type alternatives. Once we can then refine down to what we're thinking more some of the alternatives that we want to call our build alternatives that we want to kind of move forward with and analyze additional, then we're going to do some actual 1-foot topographic survey for the project. So Aerotech is one of our subs. They will be, flying the project and getting us that survey information once we've identified more, a little bit closer what some of the more preferred or some of the more desirable alternatives are for the alignments to move forward. We'll use that then survey information to really get a really good look at, what it needs to look or what it looks like topography wise, vertically. We'll just get that enhanced detail to really get a really good look at what the those alternatives and alignments look like. Geotechnical investigation. So we will do preliminary geotechnical assessment activities for the project. So we're not going to go out there. We're not going to be doing any testing. We're not going to be doing any field work for the project, but we will be doing kind of a looking at any of the existing available documents within the area. So as we're pulling out those data requests, any geotechnical reports, studies, previous project type stuff that we can use to pull information from, we'll use that to then make some assumptions and determine some of the needs moving forward of geotechnically what might need to be looked at. We'll estimate pavement and geotechnical needs. We'll look at different city standards for, minimum requirements for pavement sections and whatnot. We'll look at, existing information on geotechnical type items that we might want to be cognizant for the future. We'll use some of that information to, help us determine costs. If this is the minimum pavement section, that'll help in cost estimating type needs. And, overall, we'll come up with a plan of what needs to then be looked at additionally in the future. Conceptual pavement and geotechnical recommendations used for cost estimating the DCR and roadway alternatives. So it's kind of what we just kind of touched on there. But again, part of the data request that we'll be looking for, we'll be asking for any available reports, studies, previous project type information type stuff. Public engagement process. So Kate, I think you were going to run through this, and maybe you want to run through there. You want to come up here or down there? Okay. All right. Come up to the mic.
All right, so first I just wanted to say, so from a public involvement perspective, you're going to be seeing and hearing from me a lot. So me and Dylan Kennedy, who unfortunately wasn't available today in the end. So Dylan and I are kind of the leads of the public involvement and stakeholder outreach, and we'll be along with Matt on that. And then we have Abby, who's on the phone with us, who's going to help us just with a lot more of the logistics part, working with Allison and Lindsay and working out all the logistics about where and, getting them all the information that needs to be established as we move on. But really, Dylan and I will kind of be more of that face and commitment to this public involvement process. So as Vinny mentioned, we have a pretty robust and a lot of our actual budget is in this public involvement process. And so first I'll kind of go around, but first we're going to have 2 stakeholder workshops. Those workshops, I'm going to start there. Those workshops, as Matt kind of showed in the things, the first workshop is going to be very quickly. We want to get in front of the stakeholders and really representatives that we all deem, can represent the public as much as possible, get in front of them, say, what are their concerns? What do they want to see in this road if it moves forward? Those type of questions. And so we're going to have that workshop established where we have a representations of the public, but yet a smaller group that we can really get information and work with them to get that. Then we have these 2 public open houses where we're actually going to the general public out, and we right now have them in person. We can talk about whether we somehow, put it on Zoom too, at least the presentation piece of it. But we will do it in person up here, and we will be going out, and they're going to be a more public open house style. If you see the detailed, when you get into the details and you look at the public involvement plan, you'll see that we have one towards summer, and then we have another one towards when we've done some of the alternatives analysis. We presently don't have a third one kind of at the end that says this is a recommendation. What we thought in brainstorm was, let's do that third one in conjunction with a board meeting, so that we kind of open it all up to the public with the board meeting. We've done it before. It's worked out on other parts of the project where we kind of present to the board, but also have like an open house at the beginning. So it's worked out. That's what we've kind of brainstormed right now. That might morph as we go, but that's what we have right now. In addition to that, we have a public website that we're going to have that that Simpo is going to maintain, but we're going to help feed stuff to them as the project goes on. We're going to regularly update that website. What we're going to do right now, we have a draft of it. We're putting together a 1-page. We'll probably get it over to Vinny and Lindsay that basically lines up each of these different outreach events and says what we're going to want the public to participate in, what feedback do they want, what are we going to present to them when that is coming. We're planning on giving that so that we can get that website up as soon as possible. So that way you guys can direct all the public to that so they can really know when to anticipate. What I envision right now is kind of showing the history of, a little bit of that history of the corridor, what the study is, and then this timeline to begin with. This 1-pager. The 1-pager will be given to all of you guys at the stack. So you can, if you get any questions, you guys will directly know when the public can directly comment. And then on the website, there'll also be like a comment link to be like, okay, we can make a comment right now and we can process those as we get them and, let you guys all know what we're hearing as we move forward monthly. In addition to that, we just have 5 miscellaneous meetings because we know we've worked with you guys. You guys are always like, hey, can you come before my board? Can you come before my city council? We know the HOAs might be like, hey, can you come and present to our HOA? So we just kind of have 5 miscellaneous meetings that are in there where we have budgeted that AECom can come up, that we can make a presentation. We have money to put a full presentation together to, make a presentation to whatever we deem as a staff needs to be presented to. We see that as probably an HOA, as the Simpo board, maybe they want a status update, something of that nature. We are, like I said, we have a draft public involvement plan together that we're currently in the QC process for. We will get that plan to Simpo by Friday, so you guys will be able to in detail review that plan over the next week or so. Questions in general on just like the concept or anything of that nature of what we have that we're, formally going to be for the public involvement process. Okay.
How many times do you think they should do a work study session at our city council?
That's a really good question. The political will on this project is very right now.
Yes.
So probably that much more than one. I'm trying to be so nebulous. It's a tough question to answer at this stage of the yeah.
It is controversial. I mean, my gut, I'm very new with this job, and gut tells me it's cool.
I would say it's fair. I guess my encouragement is you as a technical committee answer the questions that the team is asking of you. I guess acknowledge this, that, as part of our budget, we do have 5 meetings scheduled with the consulting team. I would also add, in addition to that, you have the Simpo staff that is more than available outside of those 5 meetings to come on a regular basis. Council meeting, even if it's simply just for a brief update, doesn't necessarily need to be a study session, but just to provide an update. Maybe there's some buzz that we would like to hear for that guidance. I'm trying to
And I would certainly think that the council would be at any HOA meeting. Do you anticipate that there will be one, or we have to go specifically written down such as an HOA? I mean, I think that would be a liability.
Yeah, I mean, that, I think that's this group has to help us determine where we think we need to be. Who are we hearing from? Who needs that update? That's why we want you guys all there. But yeah, I mean, we're the ones that wrote that. I always thought that's somebody we're gonna have to.
Whether that's a good deal or a bad deal. Instead of the presentation material, you get an update on where it's running.
Now, and
There
also,
might be opportunities for them to
Yep.
have some of that, apart from just coming, you guys. They should get real sort of, interaction as they go forward.
and also,
Could they be considered, like, the stakeholder work?
One of them, that
so right in the next slide, I want to talk about one other thing first, though. We have this.
By they, I mean our city council.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe one thing that kind of tie into all this, so the two meetings we did have prior to this project kickoff was one meeting with the HOA, was Phil in there, Public Works Director, myself, the fire chief, and there have been a few others, but we did meet with the homeowners association, preliminary meeting. And we did have, that's simple, we did have a meeting with the city leadership team. And I want to tie that into this conversation. Save the Dells was very much willing to be an active partner in communicating the activity of this project. So they were very eager to help us to get through it. So information was requested, survey, et cetera. So for what it's worth, we do have that relationship established. So we want to be able to leverage.
So two things, one, I just wanted to point out, like just because we have the 5, just like Vinny said, that just means we're going to put 5 besides the 2 public presentations. We're planning on putting 5 actual kind of presentations together. In addition to us coming up, anybody could take those presentations, because it's a PowerPoint, we just were trying to budget, how many of these presentations are we going to have to put together? And then also obviously the travel for us to come and stuff like that. But I think that's an opportunity too, if we have to go to multiple at the same point, that we have this presentation together, we can figure out which ones you guys actually want us, or maybe Andrew does it. But I think there's plenty of opportunities that we can get everybody involved and make sure that that outreach is there at a level that we all need it to be, and that we're transparent, and that everybody needs to be informed is informed. Because again, that's one of our ultimate goals, is for everybody and the councils to be able to make informed decisions. Yep. That's the other thing. Yes, that's exactly. So one of the biggest things we need out of this meeting is this stakeholder list. This is for the workshops. I'll go to the next slide before I do the other thing. So this is totally preliminary, and us just, going through what we think needs to be representation. We can definitely add the elected officials to this list. Not only we've just come up with who, we need help establishing like who that person is. I will say this list, what we envision is only, like from the HOA, we only want one person coming. We don't want the whole HOA coming. We want this to be productive, but yet we want them to understand and have, hear each of the different people. We have on here the developers, the owners, because we also want to make sure that we're hearing from all over, that we don't just hear from one side versus the other side. We want to make sure that that we really have a wide range of who we're reaching out to and involving and making sure that we hear the issues. I think what we envision, some of those things, what do you want to see in this roadway? What are the issues you already see? What are those things? That's the kind of stuff in the initial meeting that we're going to have. This meeting is going to be, the first one is going to be in like the last week of May or the first week of June. So we need to establish this right away. We need to get feedback from all of you as soon as you can. By the end of the week would be awesome, early next week. And then any help you can get, if you have oh, this is the person that should represent this group, or, for each of your different agencies, let us know. Everybody here will be invited to be a part of this workshop already, but we want to know who else. Is it the elected officials? Who are we missing? Who, if anybody's on here that we should not have on here? Questions or feedback already? Yeah. All feedback, send to Lindsay. But again, please give us feedback. Please look at this list, because we need to make sure that we're on the right path with who we involve. Again, this workshop is envisioned to be, working, really hearing what the public has to say to begin with. Also informing them, what is this project? What are we going to be doing with this project? Those goals that Matt showed at the very beginning, we're going to show them those goals. We're going to show them the history so that they really have that background of it, and then move into what are issues, what are your concerns, all those kind of things. We won't have the purpose and need done yet. We won't have anything. This is just an initial, hey, we want to hear what you guys have to say. We want you to understand so that you can disseminate, so that these representatives can disseminate that information to their other peers and their other people that they have concerns in the public. So we do have, as you can see, we have environmental wildlife, we have the EMAC, we have the Save the Dells. If we think they should be there, we have them on there. We have HOA leads or a representative. Again, we don't want the whole HOA to come, please. Who else? If somebody knows, one of the things they're thinking is there any kind of youth advisory group in any of the city or the town? Is there anything like that we could tap into? Okay.
That I know would want to participate are the Westwood Saddle Club, Young High Trails Association. There's also an outdoor sportsman's club.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, and we can talk about whether we want to include, we weren't sure to put the utilities or not. I think Andrew, I know we're going to have other means that we're reaching out specifically to the utilities. So if we don't think APS should be on here because we're going to reach out in a different way, like let's, that's fine too. Yeah. Okay. And then I just want to make sure everybody understands there's a stack or the TAC, which is all of you guys, right? And anybody else that you guys think needs to be there, which are, we're trying to be representatives of the agencies, and it's going to get a lot more technical in these meetings. This is going to be a workshop that we're trying to make sure that we're getting both agency, but also public, like key public participation in. Okay.
I wrote it down. It was a suggestion by the president, like So there was a group that they reached out to, and it's something out for sportsmen. It was more a question. It was a question.
Okay. He needs to operate the gunner.
That was the never done.
It's the one that he has. Maybe Bill, maybe like the team tech rep could represent. Maybe represent some input from some very smart people.
That would be great. Any of that you see here where we've, if we've listed too much, yeah, but any way that we can consolidate to have one official voice, and then make sure whoever that we have, that they understand, like, we're not looking for you to like tell us what you want, you know what I mean? We're looking for you to represent whatever they're representing, and bring that information back, and also bring to us the information that they're, that HOA is particularly in that community, or that association is particularly interested in. But any way we can condense it, that's better. Yeah. Any suggestions that you guys have of that nature?
The elected official part. As we look at these technical meetings and as we look at these stakeholder meetings, I think it's critically important that they are communicated with clearly from a simple standpoint. But I strongly ask us as a group for you to be keeping them in, of letting them know as to the activities, because as we've already discussed, maybe we'll just consider a press giving an example. Really good discussions that I've had with the mayor and each council member, along with staff members initially, along with members of the public. So I would really like to bring them along in the process. I don't want to wait 18 months, drop this on their lap and say, okay, now we're looking for a decision. But if we can bring them along in these meetings when they're available, to sit in the audience, to hear what's going on, to hear from you, to be a part of the stakeholder meeting. They really do a partnership in getting their engagement and their evolution throughout this process. That's going to be critically important, because again, in 18 months, we're going to be looking to ask a major question. Can we as a region move into the design phase of this project? And then even bigger question, can we as a region construct this project? And that is the next commitment. So please, we will do our part, but we're going to really need some more insight as to the elected official.
And it was just a time. If you have ideas about the stakeholders, especially with some of the group documents and just like that, please email me so that we can still have the last of the discussion with you guys.
No, you're not. I wanted to keep going. But this is perfect. And again, if of anything, we're going to send out the formal requests for the other stuff, but this, we need feedback on this list as soon as possible. And for those that are on the phone, we're going to email it to you today if we can. I think you might have the list already. If you can email that maybe when you guys get back. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have one more thing for the public involvement. And for those, I think I have to stop share and then reshare. So we thought it was important to brand the project because of the fact that it is so high profile. This is totally preliminary. I just saw it this morning, but I kind of liked it. So we thought that, instead of just having Sundog up at the top in black letters, connector all the time, that we should try to brand it. And so this is what we've preliminarily come up with. Again, I just saw it this morning, but I like it. What do you guys think? So basically all of our materials, everything to the public could have this, this logo per se for just this Sundog connector DCR. Vinny apparently knows the definition of Sundog.
We were looking actually, Kimberly was our transit planner. She, I don't know if I but it had something to do with the sun flare. It was the two ends of kind of the sun flare. That was the Sundog part of it. And it caught my interest, because early on, we were talking to our single staff. Website, logos, things like that, really proactively at that time get the word out and really had suggested this sun flare basically with the two ends saying Prescott Valley's on one end and Prescott's on one end and really had a more flowery explanation than I am right now. But when Kate brought this today, I thought that kind of reminded me of that image that Timley had shared with me with the sun and the two ends of Prescott Valley and Prescott.
Comments, questions? Again, this logo will be in the public involvement plan that'll be there with information on like font and all that kind of stuff. So if y'all don't like it, mention it. So this is the one that they don't care about, right? Great. How do I go back? I'm going to keep going though, so we can get done. How do I make it go forward?
Yeah, it's kind of all connected. Something's wrong with us bringing it back that we can't get to.
Something froze. Just give us a second. Those of you at home.
Yeah, we're not gonna do
Is the mouse frozen?
Before you leave.
Okay, stop and let's just try it again. Good. Yeah, you're working at least.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going and I'm trying to do this fast. So, because I know people have to leave in about 15 minutes. So next part of the study, no, I got it there. There we go. Traffic volumes. So we are starting the traffic engineering study right away. We have counts scheduled for next week. We looked up and help from Andrew, make sure that the school was still in session. We are only taking TMC turning movement counts at SR 69 and Sundog, and then along Prescott Lake Parkway and the tie-in at the two tie-in locations. We have some turning or some tube counts that we're going to put on SR 69 and Prescott Lakes Parkway. And then we're going to get a whole bunch of other volumes from the recently completed adaptive signal project along SR 69, because we will be studying and creating synchro and all kinds of analysis on SR 69 itself. We're going to be looking at existing volumes, 2045 no build and 2045 build. And so we will be doing the analysis of both of those with utilizing the RTP model and creating those no build and build volumes so that we can really see what is the no build on not only like what kind of volumes do we see on the corridor, but what kind of volumes do we see on SR 69 too? And how do those intersections operate on SR 69 in each of the different scenarios? Traffic analysis. I guess I had one question for Ian about the OD data and whether you guys are gonna maybe still have access to streetlight data, possibly. Okay. 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 Just let us know if we move forward. If we need to figure out something else, we'll figure out something else. We are planning no matter what though to figure out OD data. How much is going from SR 89 right now or vice versa? You know, who's making this movement and how is that, so that we know kind of what is that interaction existing today. Because we think that's pretty important to really understand the existing connectivity. We will be doing AM, PM, and one weekend peak with all of these analysis. And then we're gonna be requesting the artist, which is just travel time data from ADOT, and they have SR 69. We have a different travel time data on the corridor. We will be doing, as we talked about, access management and really talking about what does the corridor look like? What is that access management? What is the spacing of the intersections need to be from a traffic standpoint? Doing a crash analysis on the existing corridors that we're tying into adjacent to it, and then creating the traffic report. Any questions for traffic standpoint? All right, cool. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew. Yep.
Our deliverable for the rink design is a preliminary final study along with investors. But quite a bit of information already from our Diamond Valley. They asked from the county, so we can models wash costs. But obviously, third alternative to look at the site. File then audible list based on conflicts. Transmission line right through there, gas, send out. We use the rock meeting. Start to discuss about that's a nice way to get west mapping and then so that just again identifying future not only existing but future or inspections. Not at this point. But at the end, we will identify key populations.
Any other question? Great, Matt.
So for right away, we talked a little bit on here. So we'll first, we'll want to develop or determine what those future right away needs are. We can start by looking at what out there. And stuff a little bit. There's final plats, other build into our existing right away base files. So we can delineate where those property lines, where all those look at some of our different alignments, see what they fit, our for the project. That's what we're going to plans now. Come on, with it. Overall, some of the final deliverables that once we get through the process here, once we come up with what a preferred alternative is, we will take that preferred to a 50% design level. So with that, the DCR and the other 50% plans for that preferred. So we show typical section, we show plan profile of the preferred. We just go through a final deliverable to DCR and DCO. We will draft the final deliverable on that. We will have a stack review that by comments that we will resolve, come up with a resolution on. Document summarize alternative process. We look at some of those other items. So we go across potential funding sources, overall schedule for designing. Look like in the consideration along there as well. DCR process.
I'm trying. Okay, so the last piece of a task is the environmental overview. Jessica, who's online, is going to be the lead of this. But again, we're going to identify and provide a summary of the known environmental resources and any potential risks. Really do a desktop review of the existing conditions to identify any fatal flaws, obstacle issues, and sensitive areas. Really looking at this not only as like, are there any fatal flaws, but also as environmental opportunities. Are there opportunities that we can work with the community to identify like wildlife coordination. We are have already started and are going to continue coordinating with EMAC, making sure that we identify what opportunities, if there are, on the corridor as we look at what does it look like, how do we provide, and what could be implemented into the project in order to use this as an opportunity to enhance what the wildlife considerations could be for the project. And also, so that way it's at a stage where it can be identified what it looks like, and that they can go, somebody can try to look for funding for that. So we really look at this as an opportunity also from an environmental standpoint, doing desktop reviews for biological and natural resources, water resources, hazardous materials, cultural, and socioeconomic. As we do all this, we are going to be kind of following the Pell process, not necessarily doing a Pell, but making sure that it ties in so that in final design, if it needs a NEPA process, it can like kind of go directly into the NEPA process. Again, it's all desktop type of review though. Any questions? Yes.
So why wasn't Pell considered?
So we do have kind of a Pell. I mean, it's one of our items. I don't know exactly how we stated it, but it'll follow a lot of the Pell process. So, correct. Yes. Planning, Jessica, linkages.
Planning and environmental linkages. Yep.
Sorry.
They serve under our simplest pack right now. And at the end, we have 7 or 9 members and that helps us to evaluate projects for, again, the wildlife and transportation and what some alternatives could be.
Yes.
So this meeting scheduled for 3. I know some of our press staff has to go to the company. Just want to make a quick plug before we lose anybody. This project, Sundog, our budget's around $400,000 for this study. A very key part of that is the match that we're responsible for, and that's the cities and towns in the county that makes up Sundog. The match for this entire project is around $32,000. The way that we pay that match with traditional your fund. Throughout the next 18 months, it's going to be critically important that any work you do related to this project, that you make note of it, that it's documented. Allison has, if you haven't received one, has a time sheet essentially for you that, for the most part, she fills out for you, asks for you to sign. You are more than welcome to edit it if you want additional time in visiting with the council, other staff members, and research. The way that we build it is based on your salary time per hour. So it is incredibly valuable to the end of this project. If we aren't able to achieve that match at your time, then what Simple ends up doing is sending a bill to the member agencies at the end of the project to each town with the final bill for it. So our goal is that we don't send that bill, but instead please document Allison what you feel and keep track of that.
Matt.
Yeah, so quickly with the schedule, real fast. So again, it's an 18-month study schedule, which just kind of shows some of the major milestones, some of the milestones that we're wanting to hit the project here. So starting in May, so as we discussed here, we'll be submitting that public involvement plan for staff review. We'll also be conducting our traffic counts this month as well, before school is out. The stakeholder workshop #1, we're showing June for that. That's kind of what we discussed here on that list. We want to do the stakeholder workshop #1 early in the process, so that's really important. So everyone taking a look at that list, giving your feedback on it, seeing who may or may not be missing, and some individual names that we can throw on there, so we can start reaching out to them, getting it scheduled. So we're anticipating, towards the end of this month, or hopefully early June, we get that stakeholder workshop #1 underway. Existing and future conditions analysis, that's what we're calling our task 2. So that's what we'll be putting it up. Start now, we'll be putting in all of our data requests. We'll be putting out all we'll get correct accounts. We'll do the graphic analysis type information. We'll work all that information in through towards August. Once we get to that point, we'll have hope established what the purpose and need of the project is. That's then we will bring it out to the public, the general public, for our public outreach meeting number 1. We're anticipating that sometime in August there, so in the summer time frame. From there, we'll get into our alternative development portion of the project. So looking at alternatives, what they really need to do, developing them, evaluating them, the criteria of design criteria, evaluation criteria, everything along with that. We're showing September to March of next year time frame for that. Where we'll be hopefully gone through the process and what good alternatives are and come up with an overall consensus on what's the favorite alternative is. At that point, or within that task 3, within the alternative development portion of it, we'll stakeholder workshop number 2. So we again bring the group together. We would want their input on what needs to be in the alternatives. So stakeholder workshop number 1, bring the group together, introducing the project, introducing the process, so they understand it. Once we get stakeholder workshop number 2, we're looking for input on what the alternatives. Public outreach meeting number 2, somewhere in that February of next year time frame. We would have evaluated the alternatives by this point. We would probably have one, whatever the alternative is, scored. We have one that's scored the highest, or have consensus on the group on what the alternative is. We could at that point we would bring the alternatives and recommended to the public. Start comments. We see what you're at from there. March time, March. That's the first time.
So that's a great question, but I think there's going to be a couple of things. We are going to keep like a website where any of the public can go and look at the alternatives on there. We will, and I know this says recommended, but I actually don't think we will have the recommended at the first one. We'll just have the alternatives probably, and maybe a preliminary evaluation, but no actual recommendations. We don't want to make sure to go to the public and say, hey, we have a preferred type of thing. But I think it's going to be critical that we keep, informing the public all throughout the time. So once we do, even from the 5 alternatives to the 2, make sure that they have a chance to even see those. We're just not necessarily going to go with them to a official public meeting with some of that. Yeah. 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 Well, and I think where we see alternate stakeholder workshop number 2 is maybe when we have the 5 and we've done a preliminary analysis of those, you know what I mean? And then maybe the public meetings when we've gone from the 2 and have more of here's the typicals and things like that. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't see on here anything about the elected officials when you plan to go to Prescott City Council and is it that they would accept the report, accept the
So we can discuss that and figure out when. We haven't discussed and figured out exactly when do we want it, to all go to, especially to the officials. I think at the end, we definitely, we know we have to go to the TAC, to this TAC or the board at the end. We know we probably want to go to the city at least once, if not twice, like you guys said. We're definitely looking at you guys as, to see when you guys think. Again, as Vinny mentioned, getting the elected officials to come along the ride for us the whole time is going to be critical too. Inviting them to even the workshops, even if they just want to sit in the back in the workshop so that they can hear what the people and representatives at the workshops are saying is good too. If we want to establish those dates right now, let Vinny and Lindsay know, and we could be we can brainstorm when we think they would be, and say that they're subject to change.
I would say too, from a staff standpoint, for the next staff meeting, you can bring back some recommendations. You know, a little bit of sense of the strategy there. So actually, for the next meeting, we'll kind of what else we're going to do that might be best interest in this calendar.
Accept this.
Correct.
Yep.
So, yeah, so, and I guess to be clear on that, the Simpo executive board, which has a representative from each community, would do exactly that. And I think this is more outside of the process, more of the politics. I want to say to Ashley, comments kind of like, well, you know, how do we continue to be sure that we back in line with safety? That's kind of what's the formality that Simpo needs to do, but then furthermore, what's the critical politics and relationships that need to be evolving along. So it's supposed to
Approval of this project. Years ago, obviously with the money. Which has at least a representative. In our consultancy. That's not.
correct. I think to be also fair to the group discussion, again, towards through this process, there's going to need to be a conversation, obviously at the end, but leading up to that about the design of this project. I think I've already given some heads up to each of the communities. But again, this would be a regional effort. We don't know what we're going to be designing quite yet, but I do think we need to prepare as a region, and we come together for a few $1 million towards this project, $3 or $4 million, and divide that up between them folks and the rest of the kind of county to pay for the design of this project. So I have forwarded this out to a few mayors, to the town managers. But we do need to be aware of that discussion.
You know, typically from my experience with a similar type of document required a study and we have monthly jurisdictions involved. They just give an update, you know, what study, you know, every so often, so they keep the elected officers from each jurisdiction involved, you know, so they're kept up with the milestone that we have been working on the first, then the second, you know, 3 or 4 months. I think that's one good way to do it.
I think that's a good recommendation. I would definitely look to you each, again, we'll try and outline it for the next meeting, probably, but for all of you, if there's just something that you feel your board or council needs an update or should have an update, please let us know after the meeting.
Anything else? Thank you. Oh, you're great. Thank you.
We're almost again here too. So next step, we've echoed on a lot of these here. Again, get input on the stakeholders workshop, participants, and give us the feedback on time to get the stakeholder meetings. Anytime we'll submit the public policy plan, we're going to begin our data collection activities. So we're going to request for data items to everyone very soon here. Development plan, data collection type activities, evaluating the existing conditions, evaluating the future conditions. That takes us through our presentation here. We'll kind of open up to any general discussion, any questions anyone wants to bring up at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna send out through Lindsay the whole presentation. Yeah. And what we can do, Lindsay, I think you have this. She can send it out even earlier, so you guys can take a look at it along with that workshop list, and then we'll just do a follow on of the meeting minutes after. So just in case you guys want to see anything earlier. Yeah, if I can get it to work.
Just for the group's reference, this is happening parallel to this project. Simpo is going to be moving forward with the State Route 69 Master Corridor Plan. This goes back to our retreat discussion a year ago. There was a considerable debate that Simpo, number one, focus on State Route 69. Whether we go with Sundog connector going back and forth with Sundog and then 69, but it was almost the reverse. But all of this is a very critical part of the discussion. The public, some of the public that is opposing this project is saying, you just need to focus on 69. Don't build this road, make 69 more lane, help it to flow, et cetera, et cetera. So as far as we're concerned from a staff standpoint, we're going to be doing both projects simultaneously. As we look to the bottom date here of September 2023, it's our hope that we will have a completed 69 master corridor plan, which will take a little less than 18 months. But the decision makers are going to have the results of this VCR and the results of the State Route 69 master corridor plan. Again, my strategy on that is basically to present to all of the boards and councils and say, we have both options on the table as a region. What do we want to move forward with? Do we want to move forward with the Sundog, or do you see some real opportunity in 69? So just for the group's reference, but I think this calendar lets us know a little bit of what we want.
Does anyone online have any questions? Oh, there's one. Wait. None for Dan.
With that, then